In any case, we'll get to that in a little bit, obviously. We'll get to that in a little bit. So Donald Trump is pissed because the ceasefire basically was the shortest-lived ceasefire of all time, I think. Iran did the Israel method in both its targeting, in both its impact. Anyway, let's get right into it. There's a lot going on in the world. Let's get it started. Let's get it twisted. As soon as last night, as soon as my internet got attacked, okay, as soon as my ISP was destroyed, and I went offline, Iran launched a barrage of missiles into Israel, which is, I guess, expected at this point, you know? And this is coming after there was a whole will they, won't they style ceasefire that was released in the most unceremonious ways possible, in the strangest ways possible. Donald Trump didn't make it clear what the ceasefire was looking like. None of the people involved, none of the parties involved actually officially signed off on said ceasefire. It was basically as though Donald Trump came off the phone and was like, I'm doing a ceasefire. Enough, cut it out now. And then I guess it happened, kind of like a couple hours after that initial tweet, like an hour later, the Iranian government kept saying, no, we didn't get a ceasefire proposal at all. But then they were like, just kidding, we did get one. And if Israel stops striking right now, then we'll stop retaliating as well. But then Iran seemingly had one last salvo remaining, which they ended up sending Israel's way. This was a very deadly attack. This was one of the deadliest attacks for Israel. 5 people died in the process. And then Israel obviously was not going to take that. And they apparently sent airplanes in the direction, like bombing planes in the direction of Iran. And then Trump was like freaking out over it and tweeting and complaining about Israel, saying like, you better not do this. You better not do this. And Israel did get one. No, baba ne yapıyorsun? Baba eyvah. Dikkat et. Ne o? Okay, tamam, evet. İstiyorsan onu ver. Tamam, evet. Tamam. My dad almost broke the gate. Oh, my whole family loves coming over here as soon as I start streaming. It's like, this is the opportunity, you know what I mean? This is the time to really ask a couple important questions. Baba sıkamıyorsan boş ver, ben yaparım. Okay. But yeah, let's do it. Let's get it twisted. Let's get it poppin'. Here is what's happening right now. Here's the latest. Trump rants at Israel and Iran as ceasefire is violated within hours. Greatest ceasefire president of all time. Greatest peacekeeper president of all time. Spectacular show, sir. You done did it again. Once again, sir, you are saving the world. Thank you for the ceasefire.
Fragile and still hanging in the balance. A furious Donald Trump today said the ceasefire he declared official at 6 a.m. this morning has been violated by both Iran and Israel. But in comments to reporters, he reserved his harshest criticism for Israel, closing them with an...
You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one...
That was crazy. I mean, he just straight up gave a play-by-play. Okay? And by the way, trigger warning, guys. The president is about to be a meanie, okay? I'm just letting y'all know. Get ready. He's about to say a bad word.
Rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. We basically have 2 countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand?
That's so funny. In the past, what just took place right here would be like major news. It would be major news. It would drive discourse for months. But of course, in the past, I don't think that there would be a situation where the American president decides that there is a ceasefire going on after after bombing Iran, a sovereign nation, okay, bombing Iran, a sovereign nation, and then claiming that there's a ceasefire on his own social media application that he had to create because he was banned off of Twitter. Evet. Lütfen. Bilmiyorum baba, önemli değil. Önemli değil. Açsa yediririm ondan sonra. Boş ver sen, tamam. Sen kendin takıl kafana göre. The comments for removing the blue check marks are amazing. Anthony Blinken, some thoughts on the strikes against Iran's nuclear program? Opinion, Iran's diplomacy failed. I hope his airstrike succeeds. Yeah, interesting. Interesting that Twitter liberals are fighting this battle for no reason, it seems. Twitter liberals are living in this like fantasy world where they think like the Democratic Party is actually super against war with Iran. And every Democrat that has said anything about this in a position of power has basically reiterated their commitment to bombing Iran over and over again. Like they just keep saying over and over again, like, no, we love to bomb Iran. We wish we were doing it. We wish you asked us before you bomb Iran. Why didn't you invite us to Iran? I love Iran. Can we on tonight, Queen? And then Twitter liberals are like, Kamala Harris would never Iran. It's like, okay, well, I guess every single other Democrat was down to do it, but not Kamala, even though she's also noticeably absent from the conversation. It's not like she's dead. You know, why is she not saying, hey, I, Kamala Harris, would not have Iran if I was president? Because it would be a great opportunity for her to say, you know, that this is ridiculous and up. Like, I want her to say that. You know what I mean? I don't even believe her, but I want her to say it at least. In any case, we'll get to that in a little bit, obviously. We'll get to that in a little bit. So Donald Trump is pissed because the ceasefire basically was the shortest lived ceasefire of all time, I think. Iran did the Israel method in both its targeting, in both its impact sites, which, you know, had a bunch of civilians in the residential buildings that they hit, but also pulled an Israel method where they also sent like a final barrage, a big volley at the end, right? And one of the last missiles that they sent was past the point of the ceasefire. Now, there might be a different mindset here. It's like, is it about when the missiles get sent, or is it about the missile impact time? Because if it's about the missiles being sent, then like technically there was only a couple that were sent after the ceasefire period started. In any case, you know, they were trying to hit a buzzer beater, I guess. I don't know. But that's like what Israel does all the time. Israel did this with Lebanon. If you recall, they literally did the most aggressive pummel, the most aggressive volley on their way out of Lebanon. And then they kept shooting at Lebanese villagers while they were withdrawing from Lebanon. So obviously that's not, you know, that's yet again Iran behaving a little bit to the fractionally as bad as Israel behaves with regular frequency. And then, of course, everyone that defends Israel loses their mind whenever another country does Israel shit, even if it's like marginally, even if it's like almost a fraction of the harm that Israel does with regular frequency. But here it is. Let's continue.
It was late last night that Trump in his trademark capitals posted congratulations to everyone. There will be a complete and total ceasefire. An official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. But there was still time for both sides to launch a last volley of attacks.
It's so that the 12-day war thing is so Trump. That is so Trump. Like, you know, you have the famous 6-day war, and he wants to like trademark it, right? Like he wants to be the guy. He wants to be the guy who like trademarks something like that, and it will be remembered in like history books or whatever. And that's precisely the reason why it's like he does not, like, even if he doesn't care whether or not the ceasefire is violated or whether or not like Israel continues Iran or whatever. Obviously, he cares as far as like it makes him look bad. But I'm not joking when I say this. I feel like his real anger and resentment stems from this potentially not being a 12-day war, but a 13-day one. Okay? Like he wants the marketing to be the 12-day war, double the amount of the 6-day war. So when they like if they continue fighting back and forth, well, he already trademarked it as the 12-day war. What do you mean? That's an extra day. We can't have it be the 13-day war because Trump already said 12-day war. He already promised maximum peace, permanent peace. Like, you guys are ruining it. You guys are the bag up for him. Like, he had a whole initiative behind this. Like, he had a whole marketing team behind it. Like, he's like, what are we going to do? Send these hats and t-shirts to Africa like the losing NBA team? You know what I mean? Like, we already made the merch, dog. You can't make it 12 and a half days of war. We made the merch. We had it ready to go. What do you mean? We have to go back now and reprint? We can't do that. He's so petty and such a diva. I, for one, totally believe this. I think that is definitely a primary interest here. That for sure is a primary focus here. Osita says, despite the best efforts of his advisors and donors, Trump simply does not have. This is one of the best takes, by the way. I love Osita. Brilliant guy. I had a take on this as well, but like, I think Osita's take on this was so perfect. Like, the whole thing and the anger thing. Despite the best efforts of his advisors and donors, Trump simply does not have the political discipline to maintain the pretense that Israelis are rational and reasonable actors. Signs of his political inexperience. He seems genuinely upset here. What theater responds to everything? Theater for who? For what? Who comes out looking good? With more power? Trump? The Israelis? Do you think the Israelis need a permission structure to do strikes here? That Trump knows what he's doing? Oh, it's theater. Oh, it's fake. Anytime anything at all happens. All right, then explain. Lay out the analysis or shut up. Osita is 100% correct. Trump understands the dynamic between America and Israel, okay? And he doesn't like it when Israel actually steps out of line. Under normal circumstances, because the whole Israeli indifference or Israeli arrogance is supposed to be priced in to the American foreign policy interests, Joe Biden doesn't run into this problem where he's like openly disturbed and openly resentful about, Benjamin Netanyahu violating yet another red line. Okay. Donald Trump, on the other hand, doesn't have that same acumen and have that experience politically to turn around and just quietly say, oh, we're going to show Benjamin Netanyahu what's what. Like, this is a real moment of anger. This is one of the only times I've seen Donald Trump like actually pissed off. Political inexperience. The man has been in politics officially for a decade. It's just his character, not experience. Chatter. 1 decade in politics is political inexperience. Joe Biden was a senator and then the vice president and then the president for a career that spanned for like 60 years. What are you talking about? A decade is nothing. Yeah, Joe Biden was in there for like almost half a century plus. So, but yeah, my take on it also was this. I said, once again, one phone call is all it takes. And if it doesn't work, weapons embargo. And if that doesn't work, sanctions. And if all of that doesn't work, military invasion. This is why it'll never go beyond the phone call. Because Donald Trump was tweeting a storm earlier when Israel was very angry and wanted revenge for this. Okay, because this was Israel receiving a little bit of Israel-style behavior. Okay, and only Israel gets to do Israel shit in the region. No other country gets to do Israel shit to Israel. That is completely not allowed. That's not in the books. You can't do that. So, of course, they were very upset. They were very frustrated. And Israel Katz came out and basically said something along the lines of like, we're going to punish Tehran. We're going to bomb Tehran. We're going to go back to bombing Tehran. And Donald Trump put a stop to it, seemingly. But Israel still got like one radar tower. Israel got to strike one radar tower, which seemingly Iran is not even retaliating to.
In Beersheba in southern Israel, at least 4 people were killed by an Iranian missile. And in Iran, Israel launched a pre-dawn blitz, killing 9, including a nuclear scientist, according to local officials. But the sky fell silent just after 4 a.m.
It's crazy that they were like, oh yeah, we got to do one last bombing campaign. Let's kill as many scientists as we can. Like, just positively freak shit. And I know many of you in this community understand that this is freak shit, but just like if you're new, if you're watching, if you're just tuning in because you don't fully have a grasp over what's going on here, just imagine if they were Israelis. Okay? Because Iran does have the capability of striking Israel, as we have seen. Imagine if Iran was just like, oh, this is our last chance. Let's go kill like 50 people, scientists and their families. Okay? Because clearly the only real human beings in this situation are the Israelis in the eyes of many people in the Western world. So just, think about it like that.
With Iranian state TV repeating its foreign minister's position, stopping just shy of a cast iron ceasefire, announcing instead it would stop if Israel stopped.
I will say, by the way, the inconsistencies in the messaging from the Iranian side, I do think the inconsistencies of messaging on the Iranian side also we shall see in the future, but it was a very interesting predicament. It made me feel like there might be potentially some power struggles between the IRGC and the regime itself. Like perhaps you had the president and the envoys that are supposed to be more like moderate and more Western focused. I mean, they were literally appointed for that position, right? Perhaps they were more open to negotiations, whereas the IRGC might be more militant and more invested in a hardline position, like actually fighting back. Because even the response coming from the foreign minister made it seem as though like they were done, that they were not going to retaliate to Israel, and then they did. They really did.
Mr. Araqchi said there is currently no agreement on a ceasefire or a halt to operations. However, on the condition that the Israeli regime stops its illegal offensive...
I saw the Economist report. I think that could be the case. IRGC hardliners have already de facto seized power in Iran in outrage over perceived weak leadership of the clerical elites. One thing that is certain is that the pro-Western negotiation factions have been repeatedly humiliated. I can see that. But I don't know. We don't know yet. I will tell you, we do not know yet. I will read that article, but I want to stress, we do not know yet. King, you're offline? What do you mean? What do you mean I'm offline? What is happening? Like you just came into the chat and you saw thousands of people writing in the chat and you were like, what are these guys writing about? Like,
against the Iranian people by 4 a.m. in Tehran, we also have no intention of continuing to respond.
At 6 a.m., Trump took to social media again to declare a ceasefire official. Do not violate it, he warned. The ceasefire is now in effect. But within hours, Israel's defense minister announced Iran had done just that, and that Israel would respond with intense strikes against regime targets. After telling journalists this morning he had to get Israel to, quote, calm down, Trump wrote on Truth Social that its planes would turn around and head home while doing, he said, a friendly plane wave to Iran. Today, as the NATO summit opens in The Hague, the end of what Trump calls and hopes will be the 12-day war hangs in the balance, with European leaders holding their breath over the past few days' escalations. After the US joined the conflict directly on the weekend, hitting 3 Iranian nuclear facilities, Iran responded yesterday with a strike on America's largest military base in the Middle East, Al Udeid in Qatar, one that was largely symbolic, with no casualties, and the US warned in advance. Iran's is a leadership diminished, depleted, and looking for a revenge that will save face without triggering a response. Last night, its supreme leader in hiding, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, posted on X a well-worn adage of the past fortnight. Those who know the Iranian people and their history, he said, know that the Iranian nation isn't one that surrenders. The US claims it's neutralized Iran's nuclear capabilities, one of Israel's stated aims when it launched the war. So said Vice President J.D. Vance as he spoke on American television last night, moments after Trump announced a ceasefire.
Well, we were actually working on that just as I left the White House.
Why do you watch this Western propaganda? because yeah, you're right. I should be watching Al Mayadeen and only Iranian news channels. Why don't I just like read? Why don't I just try to like interpret Farsi? Yeah, I watch Western propaganda because Western propaganda is what your parents and what most of the people in your life, what the normies actually just watch. My job is to pick apart the Western propaganda here.
House to come over here. So that's good news that the president was able to get that across the finish line. I think what it means, Brett, is quite simple. First of all, the president,
why do you strawman so much?
Knock on wood.
What did I strawman here? That person said, why do you watch Western propaganda? And my response was, because I'm in the West. And my job is to cut through the misinformation, like learning Farsi. Oh, because I'm an entertainer. And a part of that is also to just like make jokes. I don't know if you know this. Maybe, perhaps, you're incapable of making assessments such as that, but that's called joking. Like, I don't think that person legitimately wanted me to only watch Farsi news. That was me jokingly responding to it. Okay? I know. Bro thought jokes would fly.
Having a single American casualty obliterated the Iranian nuclear program. We are now in a place where we weren't a week ago.
But others aren't so confident that Iran's nuclear aims are obliterated. Its leadership claims to have moved some of its enriched uranium to a secret location before those nuclear sites were struck.
Bro didn't realize there was a ceasefire, no-fly zone on jokes. Yeah. So, I said this yesterday, but Israel did not accomplish any of its military objectives. Israel did not accomplish its major objective, which was regime change. Obviously, the nukes is bullshit reasoning for this. And in the process, they actually showed all of the other regional actors that, like, if you pummel Israel with missiles, a lot of people actually show you support. And not only that, but also Israel's Iron Dome defense is not necessarily impenetrable, and that Israel and Israeli society can actually incur some penalties if they behave in this inconsistent, belligerent, violent manner. And therefore, I think this was this caused a lot of instability. This caused a lot of anger. And if you recall, I told you this last night before I got booted offline. But you will see, I said, you will see in the upcoming days whether Israel thought this was a successful initiative or not. And the reason why I said this was because clearly there were plenty of people on the Israeli side that were very frustrated, especially when the barrage of Iranian missiles came in. The barrage of Iranian missiles came in the last volley that they sent before the ceasefire, and a bunch of Israelis were killed in the process. I don't think they like that.
Today, France's President Macron said that negotiations with Iran must continue to stop what he called clandestine nuclear enrichment. Negotiations that collapsed when Israel launched its attack on Tehran 12 days ago, and which now look increasingly fragile.
Joining us now is Dr. Meir Javandanfar, Iran lecturer at the Reichman University in Tel Aviv. Doctor, can you tell us, is this an error by Iran? Is this an accident or deliberate, do you think? The ceasefire has only been going for around an hour. What do you think this means now this has happened for the ceasefire?
Unfortunately, you know, when the two antagonistic sides we have, especially Iran and Israel, it's not easy to establish ceasefire since the two countries have been, well, Iran declared proxy war against Israel in 1991. And the current war has not, Iran has not fared well in the current war. And it's very important for the Iranian leadership to look like the winning side before this war ends, because it could have ramifications at home and abroad. And I think this is one of the reasons why the Iranians would like to be the last side to fire a missile in order to preserve their deterrence image in the future and to also to back their narrative at home.
How weakened do you think Iran is?
What do you think about the Reza Pahlavi using this as an opportunity to try to overthrow the current regime? Yeah, he's got no motion, dude. What do you mean? He's got no motion. That was an abject failure. I think, you want to know what my speculation is? I think Israel thought that they could like blackmail a bunch of IRGC generals and to run away and assassinate the ones that they couldn't blackmail, decapitate the leadership to a certain degree, like really cripple it. Okay. And then there would be at least like popular mobilization against the regime. But because they did it in the most Israel way possible, because they did it while like killing a bunch of Iranian civilians, I think that, and because America was not invested, like a bunch of things did not go the way it was supposed to from the Israeli calculation. One, there wasn't enough popular discontent against the Iranian regime, but instead it was discontent, understandably, against Israel and Western meddling in the country. Okay? That's number one. Number two, Reza Pahlavi is utterly irrelevant in this calculation. He's got no emotion whatsoever. So I think they gravely overestimated his chances, or like his opportunity to like spark some kind of royalist discontent, royalist movement, royalist mobilization. That didn't work. Okay. Israel's air defenses were severely diminished in the process, making the timeline much shorter. And last but not least, the American involvement was much more limited than Israel wanted it to be, and that Donald Trump did actually take the off-ramp that Iran gave the Americans with an incredibly limited, incredibly restrained strike on an American base in Qatar, the Central Command base, which most of the missiles were intercepted off of anyway. So at least this time around, it didn't go according to plan. I think Israel's ambitions were far larger. They wanted America to join in a more comprehensive manner, and they thought that they could create enough discontent in Iranian society that people would be flooding the streets basically and demanding regime change. And that didn't happen for understandable reasons, because they were getting bombed. They were getting bombed by Israel. Like, even if you are somewhat sympathetic, I want to put myself in the mindset of someone who's like maybe a royalist or someone who is like really, really anti-Islamic republic, right? If I'm living in Tehran, okay, and I'm an Iranian who thinks, the regime, I hate this, it's bullshit, okay? And I watch Israel slowly but surely turn Gaza into a crater. And maybe I don't care about the people in Gaza, right? I'm like, I got my own problems. I don't even give a shit. But then I see what Israel is doing to Lebanon, and I'm like, okay, Lebanon and Lebanese society kind of reflects, Iranian society to a certain degree. It's like, it's more of like a city. It's not like a open air prison. You know what I mean? They didn't do October 7. All of a sudden, maybe I'm a little bit more worried. And then Israel puts the crosshairs on me and my country. I'm obviously going to not want my country to turn into Gaza. I'm not going to want my country to turn into southern Lebanon and into Beirut. So all of a sudden, no matter what my discontent is with the current order of business, the current regime, I want my government to protect me. And that's it. It's pretty obvious that like any kind of popular discontent that could have been brought about was a grave miscalculation, because Israel did Israel shit. Even if someone was anti-Islamic Republic living in Iran, okay? Even if someone was anti-Islamic Republic and they're living in Iran, when Israel kills a bunch of your neighbors and blows up your city blocks, and you feel that fear that many other neighbors of Israel have felt, it becomes real for you. All of a sudden, you're like, no, I actually don't care. I hope they defend me. I hope my government protects me. I think that was one of the miscalculations here. And the nuke stuff is just red meat for the dumbest people to hold on to, for the record. Anyone that says, this was a successful military operation, they really destroyed their nukes or whatever, no. The nuke campaign is bullshit WMD style reasoning to conduct any sort of military operations that violates the sovereignty of Iran. And the ultimate goal, the ultimate purpose there absolutely was to decapitate, or not even decapitate the state, but like destabilize the state and create, hopefully, create an environment that was ripe for popular mobilization against the Islamic Republic. If anything, we shall see what happens. But if anything, this created an environment where I think more of the hardliners within the current military structure were emboldened to take a more rugged anti-West stance. And I suspect that there are probably a lot more people. I suspect that there are probably a lot more people that are in the Iranian government that are probably talking about developing a nuclear program, like developing actual nuclear warheads, and taking that a lot more seriously, because now it's a matter of self-preservation. They're also literally, they voted. This is the National Council, the Parliament. Like their government voted to pull out of the International Atomic Energy Agency. So we shall see where it goes. But it's very clear. It's very clear that every time you do diplomacy with Iran and treat Iran as like a normal country, they play ball. They want to play ball. Okay? They're perfectly happy existing as a normal country that gets to do diplomacy with the West. They're infinitely more restrained than the West and Western forces. They're infinitely more diplomatic than the West and Western forces to a fault. And I don't think it's a crazy assessment to make. I think it's pretty obvious, judging by all of the events that have unfolded, that if there's one party that is belligerent here and behaving in an insane manner, it is not the Iranians. It is Israel and the United States of America. But since America and Israel has cast aside diplomatic off-ramps every step of the way, and since Iran was able to withstand this 12-day bombing campaign, taking severe penalties in the process for sure, and having their sovereignty violated and feeling weaker than they ever have before, I think ultimately we'll see where this goes. We'll see what kind of decisions they make. And I suspect that they might be moving away from any sort of negotiations and perhaps even engage in nuclear proliferation to the best of their ability as quickly as possible.
Is there a chance that this just pushes their nuclear aspirations underground?
Well, Anya, that really depends how accurate the intelligence of the Mossad and the CIA is. If they were sure if they're sure about knowing what Iran does, then I think that bombing these sites would enable Israel to know that the Iranian nuclear program has been set back. Some people say now by 2 years, by 5 years, without the risk of centrifuges turning up in the unknown with enriched uranium and Iran making a nuclear bomb. So I think the amount of unknown knowns has to be very limited in this case. And I think
the Iranian professor from Tel Aviv speaking about unknown knowns. Interesting. Everyone's Donald Rumsfeld, dude. Everyone turns into Donald Rumsfeld like overnight. It's crazy. Well, there you have it. CNN reports that early U.S. intelligence. I mean, I said this already. Yes, of course. I said this already. Guys, it's not about the nukes. It was never about the nukes anyway. Okay? It was not about the nukes. This was more so a symbolic act to say, like, we're doing something. Come on. We need to do this. We need to do this because of the nukes. Come on. There's real nukes over there. But also, if you ask Marco Rubio, he's like, well, the nukes are inconsequential. I'm telling you, this also is a continued, this also gives room for continued strikes, okay? This gives Israel room for more strikes. What did I say yesterday? They're going to turn around and they're going to say, "Oh, actually, what we have to do now is figure out where the enriched uranium is, and that these strikes were unsuccessful." Just like a lot of liberals hyper focus on whether or not this bombing campaign is constitutional or not, without actually addressing the real problem, which is that this bombing campaign happened at all. Okay, instead of doing diplomacy with a country that has shown time and time again that they are interested and invested in diplomacy to a fault, to a degree that actually violates their own personal sovereignty over and over again. The nuke conversation is a simple distraction, and I think a lot of people are diving into it head first. That's it. Especially considering that the notion that they had nukes to begin with was completely fabricated. There was no evidence for it at all. Why do you keep saying to a fault? How is Iran wrong to engage in diplomacy? At a certain point, you got to learn your lesson, right? Don't you think? I mean, that's why I mean to a fault. If you think that you can do negotiations with America and then Israel strikes you and then you go back to the table to do more diplomacy after 12 days of bombing, after Israel establishes air superiority over certain parts of your country, and then America comes in and also bombs you as well in the process, while again, you were in the process of doing negotiations, then don't you think that that is diplomacy, like trusting the West to a fault? What should they do instead? I don't know what the options for the Iranian government are, but if gray boxes are back. It didn't work. The thing. Hold on. Anyway, I guess what's their other option? But they don't really have much choice, surely. Yeah, their other option would be to work to the best of their ability with China and Russia, establish sovereignty, and develop nuclear warheads. It's to turn into Korea, basically, to North Korea. And I think if left up to the IRGC, that's what they would do. The Economist. Let's look at this article from the Economist. Okay, and then there's a Foreign Policy Magazine article as well. IRGC hardliners have already de facto seized power in Iran in outrage over perceived weak leadership of clerical elites. One thing that is certain is that the pro-Western negotiation factions have been repeatedly humiliated. Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, is 86, and for years there has been speculation about succession, although who might gain the upper hand has been far from clear. The war is changing that, turbocharging a power shift to the regime's military arm, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. In the first days of the fighting, Mr. Khamenei, aging and isolated for his own safety, disappeared from the scene like the Shia's hidden imam. He delegated decision-making to a new council, or shura, dominated by the IRGC. The country is in effect under martial law, says an observer. As the IRGC gains control, its elite is being transformed at speed by Israel's assassinations. Another thing that I speculated, which was that Israel might have been unironically culling the top brass of the IRGC in a way that actually changes the in against Israel's goals. Because if they are killing all the older IRGC generals and top brass, you might unironically be making them more resistant to any sort of Western incursion. You might be bringing up younger successors that are far more invested in, one, defending themselves, defending the country, and be far more combative towards any sort of Israeli intervention. Do you think it's crazy how news breaks faster in places like your Discord than it does in mainstream media, i.e. the U.S. not completely destroying nuclear sites? No, it's not crazy at all. We have 44,000 people. We have a stadium full of people in here, and we are dialed in on a lot of the open source stuff. We're dialed in on all the breaking news coming from journalists as well. So it's not shocking at all. We didn't have that as fact, just speculation. Yes, but it wasn't just like a completely made up notion. it made sense, especially because of the previous information that we already had. Like, for example, the enriched uranium. Iran said that they had already moved the enriched uranium days before America struck Fordow. That wasn't new information. All of a sudden, the media pays attention to that statement when they want to make an assessment on whether or not America accomplishes military goals here. We knew that Fordow was deep underground. Brother, your audio is messed up for 2 minutes straight, just like it started yesterday. What are you talking about? It's only on your end, it seems. I haven't heard from anyone else saying that. And for the record, CNN exclusive, early U.S. intel suggests American strikes did not destroy Iran's nuclear sites and likely only set the program back by months, sources say. So one thing that we knew about Fordow, especially, and all of Iran's like ballistic missile production sites and all of Iran's nuclear sites in general, the ones that could be weaponized in the future, where you can build like fuselages or centrifuges and enrich uranium, like they are deliberately placed on the side of a mountain deep underground with the sole purpose of withstanding withstanding nuclear strikes. Even it is designed specifically so that like even if America's greatest bunker buster bombs strike it, it's supposed to withstand that. If the nuclear issue is a distraction, then why did the Obama admin commit to the JCPOA? Or are you saying it's only used as a distraction by the Israelis? I think the reason why Barack Obama committed to the JCPOA was that it was unironically one of the few instances where the State Department at the time and America at the time were able to commit to a diplomatic solution rather than a militant one. And yes, Israel absolutely hated that. Are you kidding me? Why do you think there is this notion that Obama is the world's greatest Jew hater? Have you never heard this before? Talk to any Zionist and they will say Obama hated Israel. Obama was the number one enemy to Israel. Why? Because of this. Because instead of using Israel's advice, Israel, which has always wanted to destabilize Iran, they actually went with a diplomatic role. They actually played a diplomatic role and successfully stopped the Iranian government for even enriching uranium. That was what it was. That's what happened.
I can say with reasonable confidence that the recent operation was undertaken against Iran's nuclear program, knowing that it would be difficult for Iran to hide additional nuclear sites.
And you're in Israel. What's the mood like there over this situation?
Difficult, 12 days we've been being woken up twice a night by missile attacks. I'm a native of Tehran myself. I'm used to, my childhood was spent during the Iran-Iraq war. And now my children in Israel, they've had to go to bomb shelters twice a night, and children across Israel. It's been a hard war. We've seen houses demolished. Iran's missiles are very powerful. We are very lucky to have defenses against them. Unlike the war in Gaza, Anya, what's interesting is that 70...
Yeah, I don't care about this interview. All right. Furious. Hosts react after Trump drops F-bomb.